Sorry, I missed a few steps on this trailer restoration. Just forgot to take some pics ahead of time. This is a 20-foot car hauler. I forgot what brand it is, but anyway, super nice. These have gone up in value tremendously, as I'm sure many of you guys already know. 20 foot by 83 between the fenders. It has 3,500 pound torsion axles. It is one heavy beast. And as you can see, I've already stripped the lights out of it. And these are nice slide out diamond plate ramps. I cut the stops out so we can pull those out and have them sandblasted as well, which is where we are on our way to right now. You can probably tell these darker areas. There's diamond plate trim that was on all these edges and then on the trailing and leading edge of these fenders. I think the trailer started out life as red and then was painted blue, and I was gonna figure out how to prep this entire surface, but sanding it just didn't seem right. It was gonna be pretty extensive. So my friend Doug, who this trailer belongs to, thought maybe we should just have it sandblasted, which they quoted me $600. Pretty spendy. But if you figure you pay yourself 20 or 30 bucks an hour plus materials for the sanding, you're breaking even. You can see here I've already removed the winch, the battery. Also, this thing had a powered jack, drop leg jack, which is the only way to go. You can see boxed steel tongue pieces. Underneath has all that 2x2 channel. Along with all the sheet metal sides. They're box steel cross beams on 16-inch centers all the way to the back. The guys we're taking it to for sandblasting actually quoted me a pretty reasonable price to powder coat it while they had it there, because it's another service they offer. But I don't know about you guys, it's been my experience that powder coat is not ideal for something that can take a lot of abuse. I know it touts itself as being really strong, but you know, rock chips, or you drop a piece of material, equipment stuff, chains dragging across the floor of this trailer, it knocks that powder coat off, and there's really no way to touch it up. You just have a spot you either have to drip paint in or something like that. Just not a huge fan. I actually already have all the stuff we need. That POR 15, we're gonna do the rust encapsulator as well as a gloss black top coat, and I ordered the prep material for it too. It wasn't exactly cheap. I think it was about 400 bucks for everything that I feel like we're gonna need for this amount of surface area, and it's highly recommended. It's probably way too windy out here. We've got storms and cold weather coming in, but this thing is sandblasted and looks amazing. This is much better, safe and sound in the shop. Looks like they did a pretty good job sandblasting this. Again, there was multi-layers of paint on it. And now it's just bare steel. You can kind of tell, super close up right there. Next step for us is to get it up on jack stands and pull the wheels and tires off of it, because I think we're gonna have the wheels powder coated while we're doing the rest of this paint work. So the first thing we're gonna do, now that we've got the trailer all prepped, is install these flush mount lights. Now, if I was smart, I'd have cut these out before we had it sandblasted, so I don't have to climb up there and contaminate this clean surface, but hard to be smart and this tall. These fenders haven't exactly been living their best life. There's a bunch of places where they've broken loose. At least the inner fender has broken loose from the trailer. Several places we're gonna have to take care of that. And probably that added stress and maybe people walking on it has caused these to crack in pretty much all four corners. going to be upgrading our safety chains. These guys are pretty anemic looking, and I kind of like these mounts. Probably weld them somewhere in there, and I'll probably leave these here so we can hang our hooks in there when the trailer's not in use. The bottom side of this trailer doesn't need an extreme amount of prep for what we're trying to accomplish. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray it with this rust preventative permanent coating. It says it's direct to metal spray. We're gonna spray the bottom side of the ramps and the bottom side of the trailer. Today we're going to get started on the top side of this trailer, and I'm going to go ahead and use one coat of that rust preventative. It's kind of like a primer, I guess, and spray the whole top side of the trailer with it, and then go over it with our gloss black top coat. But before I do that, I'm going to hit some of these areas with this metal prep, like the tops of the fenders and the areas where we kind of worked it, because I know that I've got some contamination there from touching on it. So just go ahead and do that along the tongue areas and stuff like that, maybe even the top of the ramps. But that freshly sandblasted surface will just deteriorate any kind of rag that you rub on it, so you just have to be careful. These are paint cloths. I'm gonna see how that works and then get to spraying. I will say, for what some of this stuff cost, it would have been nice if they'd have thrown like a sprayer in that I could put inside this and use to apply it. I feel like that would have been a small ask. I understand why people now just use that rust preventative from Pour 15. I did what I would normally call a light coat on most of this, but it seems to be soaking in really well, and probably have a half a gallon left. So spraying the bottom side of this trailer and the top side, fenders, ramps, everything, about a half gallon of material. It's had an hour or so to set up. It's still pretty tacky to the touch. I'm just kind of debating how much longer I should wait before I go to spray the top coat on it. I don't want to be here all day, but I also don't want to start pounding material on there, because that's when you'll run into the issue where it stays sticky forever and never really cures out. So we'll give it a little bit longer. You can see a little here where I just kind of dry sprayed the whole top just to get it a nice light coating. And I hammered the fenders pretty good with it, because they're definitely going to need all the protection they can get. And hey, I know it's not perfect. It was sandblasted and it's dusty in here a little bit. It's not a paint booth. Also, this ain't no brand new Chevrolet Corvair either. This here's a trailer, so we're not too concerned about the finish. I'm not sure this stuff's even thin enough to spray. Like, I've got the 2.0 nozzle in my gun, which, you know, I've used to spray like primer and stuff, but this is so freaking thick. Maybe I'll put some in there and test, see what happens, but holy smokes, this stuff. It says to spray it 20 to 30 psi, or 25 to 30 psi, so they do expect it to be painted. with a spray gun. According to their website, the only thing you're supposed to thin this with is their specific Pour 15 reducer. Well, not reducer, I forgot what they call it now, solvent. And they said do not use anything else, which it's on back order, and I had no idea when it will ever come off. So this is why we ended up here. Good grief. I mean, this stuff will barely even go through the strainer. Thank goodness that rust preventative stuff has excellent coverage. There's still probably, I don't know, a pint, maybe a little less left in that gallon after spraying the bottom side and the top side of this trailer, including both sides of these ramps, which are 6-footers, 5-footers. Anyway, that's done. I am super excited about it, and I'm kind of anxious to see how well it holds up. I've heard a lot of good things, like I said earlier in the video. It does have a really nice gloss to it. And I know that's not just because it's fresh, because when I came in today after spraying some of this stuff heavy, it was really glossy. So only really light dustings will flash off in sort of a, I don't know, not eggshell kind of a sheen. But if you pour it to it, that stuff does get shiny. And hung the chains, you can see they go on with like a pin, and then this Carter key goes through there. And the same way on these new hooks. Like I said, I went ahead and left these loops where the old chains used to be attached, just to kind of hang these when the trailer's not in use. So that's handled. Now we're on to the wiring. Make sure you use good quality wire when you do this next step. Also, kind of go over some of the wire management and how we're going to do this. I really like having these stingers with the junction box made to them. A couple of things. It makes it color coded when you do the install, so you know which terminal to run to which set of lights on your trailer. Also, if you ever damage this, you can buy just this section with the eyelets already on this end of the wire in like 6 and 8 and 9 foot lengths pre-made. So makes it nice to swap it out in the future. Always use these crimp and seal connectors, which you can just crimp them like normal butt connectors like these, and then heat them with your heat gun and it seals it up. Anytime you're doing automotive stuff and trailers and stuff like that, it's a great idea, because road grime and stuff's always going to make its way into your connections. I have a couple of different types of loom. This is available on Amazon, eBay, whatever. This is called split loom, and you can just wrap this around the wire, and it makes it easier if you've got wire that needs to come in and out of a main harness. This is the same thing, it's just in a smaller version. So maybe this will run like out to the trailer brakes or the wires on the sides, and we'll make a main run down the center in this loom. This is expandable loom. I've used it a lot. It's kind of like Chinese finger cuffs kind of material. If you're not needing to feed wires in and out at all, that stuff's kind of nice to run just to protect your wire, so it doesn't chafe and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get the battery put in here and the jack, and we're gonna get started. Got this just kind of mocked up to test, which I always suggest that you do before you finish an install. There's a circuit breaker, sends power to this jack. It's internally grounded, or it's grounded by its own chassis, so I ran the negative battery post here. Something I did earlier, I bypassed this little incandescent dome light and put in this LED, because one of these switches runs the jack up and down, which is handy. And then this one has a light, so that will be really nice to have, like at night if you're hooking your hitch up, to have a little additional lighting. And it will turn the lights on that we cut the floor holes for. So if you're needing to hook your straps or anything up, you can just stand up here and flip these off and on. There's a couple of schools of thought with wiring up these lights. You can see these harnesses come with an eyelet already on the ground side of each one of these. So technically at every single light, you can have a chassis ground, or you can run a ground from your distribution strip that you should also tie into like a chassis bolt somewhere on your trailer, and just run power and ground to each one of these lights. It probably opens you up to potential faults if you've got that ground wire running all the way around the chassis of the trailer. But I just don't like the idea of having like a self-tapping screw all over the bottom side of this trailer that could potentially back itself out and end up in, more than likely, my tire. There's something special. I'm kind of excited to give it a try. This stuff's all from Amazon, and there will not be links in the description because this is not a sponsored video, but it could be. If you'll just type in like 12-volt wireless control switch, you'll get something like this. And basically it comes with a couple of long-range remotes and then this module with a cute little pigtail antenna. Just run your power and your ground from your battery as an input and then your output. What I'm going to do is hook them to these rock lights. These are Honala rock lights. It's an 8-piece kit. Again, Amazon. There will not be a link in the description. And these are RGB LED lights, so they're supposed to be app controlled and the whole bit. So when we get finished, you'll be able to just hit that key fob. It'll light up under the trailer. Maybe with your phone, you can change it and make a disco or whatever your heart desires. It's more than just a novelty thing. It actually is a pretty good safety feature. If you think about it, if you ever have a flat tire on the side of the highway, it'd be really nice to have it super well lit up around your trailer, because oncoming traffic needs to see that there's something up ahead that they want to maybe change lanes for, which people don't tend to be real great at doing. Let's give this a little test before we get too overzealous about wiring it up. Wonder how long this reaches. Yeah, that worked. Little wiring update for you guys. That's all tidied up. Basically what I've done is I put that crimp and seal connector from these light connections, then wrapped it in that loom, a little bit of hockey tape, which kind of is really nice to make use of. Fed those down through. I'll have to tighten this up some. Did the same thing on the brake wires. This is actually that split loom material. I like it because it gives like double layer protection. A lot of amperage goes through these electric brake wires, so you certainly don't want one of those shorting out and causing any problems. Basically, what I do is I've just made these little wiring harnesses, and each one of them can be used for these marker lights, and then they'll be a little longer on the front. Now I've got all the wires pulled under the trailer. They're not tidied up or anything yet, and I'm not hooking it into the harness that goes to the truck. I'm just going to use the battery to test, and everything should be color coded the way it's supposed to be. Green means running lights, so we can kind of go by and verify all of these do light up. Yes. I don't love how much brighter those I don't know what those identification lights, I think is what they're technically termed. They seem a lot brighter than the rest of the lights. They only have positive and ground, so there's no way to make them brighter or dimmer. And they are supposed to be on with the rest of the running lights. They are not just stop lights. So anyway, red is, I believe, right side, or no, left turn and stop lamp. So you know, you can see it flashing back there whenever I touch it. And then the brown is the right hand stop turn. Yeah, that works. See, brakes, blue. Get the blue rested against the positive. And these should just turn a little and then stop. Yeah. Yep. Now we'll disconnect it. Ooh, I heard them release. Don't necessarily need to test them again, but what the heck. Yeah. And by the way, these bearings and braces and stuff were just recently replaced a couple of months ago by the owner of this trailer. That's why you don't see us doing that in this video. Now to test this guy. Yeah, they're both on. They're kind of a spotlight. I don't really love that they're not a flood, because you can really see them directly above, but not necessarily off to the side. Probably light up plenty underneath a car though, or a truck if you're strapping it down. All the wiring is done. It's all nice and tidied up underneath as well in loom and all that stuff. So there's one more thing I want to test. Yeah. Don't give rednecks money. We tend to do dumb stuff. We got all of our trim pieces back from powder coat, also the wheels. It's not exactly the bright silver I was really hoping for, but it still looks pretty nice against the black. If I was to pick a color, I'd call it that argent silver, which I think back in the day in the 60s, like Mustangs were painted that color. But it'll still probably look pretty rad out in the sun. It has some metallic in there. Anyway, tires are mounted and balanced, by the way. I'm not sure why people with trailers hardly ever balance the trailer tires, which I don't understand because they go the same speed as the car you're pulling them with. I'll tell you right now, this pneumatic rivet gun game, it's changed your life. Just 168 more. I just can't tell you how satisfying that is, but if none of you guys have ever used a manual rivet gun, you probably can't appreciate it. But I'll tell you this much, if it weren't for this thing, I'd been walking out of here looking like a Popeye the Sailor Man. Pretty well assembled. Wheels and tires are on there. They look good. New center caps and lug nuts and everything. Pretty, real pretty. Time to take it to the house and do the final step. This winch has always just been bolted to the front of the trailer, which a lot of people do. I'm not a big fan of that. A couple of things. One, pretty easy to steal if you're staying the night or something like that. Also, these electric motors are not great if they're exposed to the weather all the time. Even with a cover on it, condensation and moisture, if you don't operate these pretty often, there's a chance when you need it, it may not work. So I ordered this stuff from Rough Country. I really like them. They ship same day and they make a pretty good product on everything I've ever seen from them. This is kind of their multi-mount. I think multi-mount's a worn term. But this is their multi-mount tray that goes to a 2-inch receiver. Here's a fair lead that's good for synthetic rope that I also ordered because, I mean, gosh, this weighs nothing. It'll never tear up your hands. Wire rope is just antiquated. And then this is their 7-foot quick disconnect power supply. You can also get it in a longer one if you're like running it in a pickup truck to like the hitch on the back. Probably should point out, if your winch came with wire rope, then it'll have a steel drum and you can always switch that to synthetic rope. You may want to deburr it if it's got anything. But if your winch came with synthetic rope, it probably has an aluminum drum and you never want to switch to wire rope from synthetic rope if you do have that. Little boys at Rough Country sent us a new bolt or screw to hold this on. They also sent like a protective sleeve over the first 3 or 4 feet of this synthetic rope, probably to protect it from any burrs you may have on your existing winch drum. And there's another protective sleeve on the hook end. This synthetic rope saved us 16 pounds of weight on that winch. Now let's work on the trailer. I really hate to end the video in this sour weather, but that's what we got. I found this at Tractor Supply. It's a Reese product, and it's actually made for the old step bumpers, which, how long's it been since I've seen one of those? It even came with the hardware and was on clearance for $29.59. It actually was $19.99 by the time I got it, and I can't hardly buy this hardware for that, which is 1/2 inch with lock washers and those grip flat washers. I have a plate under this diamond plate that's welded for added structure, and all 4 of these bolts fall within that reinforcement plate. I did have to move where they were from the factory to make that true. Anyway, 2-inch receiver is bolted down with 1/2 inch hardware. I ran this quick disconnect to the battery. I'll probably zip tie that. Wired it to our winch. I don't know if I showed you guys this earlier, but this is our emergency breakaway battery. I'm gonna have to come up with some way to disconnect it from this battery when not in use. Maybe put a toggle switch in line because it's always drawing just to turn that light on even though it's charged. Hard to do this with one hand, but just for posterity. We did not finish this trailer anytime too soon either, because we're gonna put the square body on it and go to Lone Star Throwdown in Conroe in less than 2 weeks. Also, I had a guy reach out that found my grandfather's truck that he bought brand new in 1989. I actually put a starter on it when I was like 15 for him. May be able to head to Mississippi and pick that up in the near future. So fingers crossed. Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, click like and tell me I made it this far in the comments below. Thanks.